Welcome to Black Girls Can Talk, the podcast where we dive into real, unfiltered conversations about what it means to be a Black woman in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. Dejanelle McCree, founder of Black Girls Can Talk. And here, we're creating a space where we can unpack everything from culture and beauty trends to mental health and the joys and challenges of Black womanhood. Whether you're here for the tea or looking for deep discussions, you're in the right place. So grab your seat at the table and let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Girls Can Talk podcast, where we uplift and celebrate the voices of Black women. Today, I have a special guest with me, Faidah Lawal. Yes. Say that for me again.
Faidah Lawal.
Y'all, and I've been practicing, but I just don't have the same accent, okay?
Okay.
Who is an engineer, a wellness practitioner, and host of Perspectives with Viv. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
It's my pleasure. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, happy to have you. So we're just going to get straight into it. So we want to talk about this concept of shadow work. Okay, so I want you to start by telling us, like, what is shadow work?
From my perspective, shadow work is kind of like facing those aspects of yourself that you find difficult to acknowledge, like your trauma, your traits that people think are bad or are perceived as bad, or the aspects of you that you've rejected. Yes, all those parts of you that you find difficult to accept as easy as those easygoing parts of yourself. So shadow work is about doing the work to understand where those aspects of self come from first, and then alchemizing and transforming those things into good. I always say to good, like you may think you have bad traits, but those bad traits can be used for good. So that's shadow work for me, because as a result, you end up being a more whole being. And that's the whole point of being a person. Like, it's not just being able to be like, I like the good parts of me, I reject the bad parts of me. It's about being able to balance both, because that makes you a more embodied human. So that's shadow work from my perspective.
Yeah, that was so good, especially
Thank
because,
you.
yeah, you and I have talked a little bit, but we've talked about the reverse. Like, I was on your podcast, but we didn't get to talk about all that you do. So thank you for letting us know. And I'm wondering, what was your journey into shadow work like? And then creating your, do you call it like an alternate personality? Like, what do you term Viv as?
Yes, my alternate personality, because I felt like where I was, or the environment I wasn't didn't have the capacity to hold my shadow self, the side of me that they didn't really like, the more outspoken, assertive, bold, courageous woman. So I made Viv like separate, and I made my podcast Perspective with Viv like a space for her to grow.
And because we're on Black Girls Can Talk, I have to ask, why do you feel like this is important, especially for Black women?
I feel because we've always been termed aggressive when we're being assertive. It's like there's this programming that they want us to have where we're quiet, where we're silent. But it's so funny because we have the strongest voices, I believe, because of what we've gone through. We know pain, but we also know pleasure. But society tries to deny us of that pleasure so that we stay in pain, and then we're quiet about pain and we suppress ourselves. So I think it's very important as a Black woman to cultivate your own space and have spaces and communities where you can be yourself, where your voice is heard, it's supported, it's understood, it's acknowledged, it's uplifted, and you feel seen. Because I feel like society as a whole tend to want us to not take up space. I remember that's what we spoke about when you came on my podcast. They don't want us to take up space. They don't want us to be expressive. They don't want us to know ourselves. But by doing this work, you having your podcast, Black Girls Can Talk, the most important thing that they've tried to take away from us is our voice. So having these spaces that we cultivate, making our own spaces where we can actually roar and speak and express and be seen and be ourselves, very important, because it inspires other Black women like us and other young Black girls to do the same.
Yeah, come on. And you just mentioned, we both just mentioned my episode on your podcast. For anyone who wants to watch, is T for Taking Up Space, because period. And we'll get into all the ways that they can find you later. But I do want to ask, how do you believe this may be, because I don't want to assume, how do you believe that this could be different for those? Like, for instance, you live on a different continent, not even like in a different country, right? So, I want to talk about the differences because we only know the American experience, right? So, do
Yeah.
you, and I know that you do a lot of research, like looking into things that occur here in America, but do you feel like there's a difference from where you're from versus like maybe what we experience here? I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Definitely. Because obviously I live on a continent in which there are more black people than, foreigners. All right. Even though Lagos is a metropolitan city where there are different people, we may not tend to run into those people because they have their own circle, they have their own places. You get what I'm saying? But we're more predominantly black. So we don't experience racism like black Americans do or African Americans do. Okay. So that's one thing. But when we bring it back to culture, we share that similarity. Growing up, kids are meant to be seen, not heard. You have the toxic family dynamics in our family, and you being quiet about it, not talking about it, not speaking up about it. You have the whole don't disrespect your elders, especially when the elders are being disrespectful, and you're supposed to accept it and take it because obviously they're older. And it's like, oh, respect is earned. It's not just because you're an elder that I'm supposed to respect you, because a lot of these elders are just old in age, but not in wisdom and not in soul. And a lot of us that are younger are the ones that could actually teach them if they were open to it. And it's that simple. I think another thing that is also something that is similar is we were colonized by the British. I mean Nigeria. I didn't specify for your listeners. I mean Nigeria. We were colonized by the British. So part of our parenting comes from colonialism. And the main part of it is not speaking up, is being quiet, is enduring suffering, is enduring trauma, is enduring things that cause you pain and make you uncomfortable. So a lot of us have nervous systems that are very not calm. And so it's very it's rebellious, it's revolutionary to be intentional about calming down your nervous system, all right? Because most of us here are in fight or flight mode. Yes, we're not experiencing racism, but we're experiencing, just like you, actually, political instability, corrupt leaders. Our economy is just, we're trying. But the beauty about us is that despite all of these circumstances, we still thrive in our environment. Nigerians are so happy. You know how online we see the best parts of Nigeria, the music, the actors, and we've infiltrated Hollywood and, the film industry in England as well. So it's to our arts, it's to our expression because of what we've gone through. It's to our weddings, it's to everything that we do that is expressive, that we celebrate and we seek to thrive, we seek to commune, we seek to have joy with ourselves despite what we're going through. So I think those are the similarities that we share.
I have two questions, but I want to start with because on my end, I'm teaching my students the difference between African American and Black American. And I wonder from your point of view, do you see it as different? Is the first part of the question. But two, like, do y'all feel some type of way like when Black people who are from America say African American? Like, I really wonder.
Okay. No, I don't. Okay. I've never thought about Black Americans. You get what I'm saying? In the sense of like the term. Yes, there are people that are immigrants that come from African countries. You have first generation Nigerians, you have first generation Jamaicans, all of that. But on a central level, when that talk is being had, we are focusing on African Americans and their stories. So I don't see it. I see a difference, definitely. African Americans are the descendants of slaves, from my perspective. Black Americans are the immigrants, the ones whose families moved there from different countries. They have their descendants here. That's how I see it. Do we feel a type of way? No, we don't feel a type of way. I don't feel a type of way at all. In fact, for me as a person, like, it's not anything to me. It's in the sense of like, it doesn't offend me or anything. In fact, I've always held space for African Americans because I've always been intrigued and involved in their history, in their protests. I don't know if I mentioned to you, I did a study abroad in Philadelphia. Before I did that, I'd always been all about African American history, their stories. I knew about their films, their authors, Toni Morrison, Zora Neale Hurston, all these things. I knew about your history because it felt like it was part of my history, because everybody, you all are descendants from African countries. But when I came to Philadelphia, it was kind of like putting everything into practice. I took an Africana studies class. We spoke about Malcolm X,
Martin Luther King Jr., you're fine.
Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you. Exactly. So we spoke about that. We analyzed text, we analyzed their movement. So I remember the teacher, and then on top of that, I also knew shows like back in the days, like Good Times, like Family Matters, all of these things. It was just part of my upbringing, just for me. It was my interest. A different world, all these things, all the way back to timing. And the teacher kept looking at me like, how do you know this? You're Nigerian. I was like, don't worry, like it's ingrained. So for me as a person, despite being Nigerian, I just see African Americans like my brothers and sisters. Yes, there's some division with Nigerians and African Americans online. I don't get it. I'm not part of that. I see African Americans as my brothers and sisters. I see them as, that's why I'm intrigued and interested in knowing about their history, their story. And that's why when I watch or engage in Black media, I know what I'm talking about. I know the roots. I know the history. I know the imagery. I know the stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? I know things because I've educated myself on it. And that's why I feel bridges that gap. I don't see a disconnection. So that's why when I even see African Americans trying to reconcile with their roots, I'm rooting for them. You want to know where you come from. You want to know the depth of your roots. You want to know your language. You want to know your history, your ancestry is so important. So for me, yes, I see the difference between Black Americans and African Americans, but I've always just had African Americans in my orbit as opposed to just thinking, oh, African American, Black American, what's the difference? That's me.
And I thank you because I appreciate how you put that. So I'm going to repeat what you said and then teach you like kind of how we're being trained here in America, so to speak, to look at it. But I love how you said, I look at African Americans as descendant of slaves and then Black Americans as, your heritage is from Africa and you all came over. And to your point, your ancestry matters. Years ago, we did our family reunion, and we're all over the United States, but they broke down where every last name came from. And apparently, my last name, we originated in Sierra Leone, but I wouldn't have known that, right? And it's like, okay, come on, diamonds are forever. And it was
Love
just
that.
amazing to see. And some people originated from America, but it was amazing to see the breakdown. But what I've been trained in my research, in the way I've been trained to look at it and I've been teaching my students, is that Black American, you were born here and you are Black. We all have we have roots, we do, but in African American, meaning that you are of African in a sense that your parents are African and or you migrated from Africa, and now you're an American. So like for me, I was born and raised in Detroit. My parents are Black. They are both from Detroit. I'm a Black American. I'm Black. I don't even say American. I'm
Fair
just
enough.
Black. Um, so yeah, I wonder again, just you know, coming from a different perspectives with Viv. I wanted to
You
get
know,
your perspective on that. So thank you. And that was kind of personally for me, but it was also a point of education for others as well. So thank you. And you also mentioned a little bit, you talked about survival mode. So I'm wondering, what are some not key characteristics, for lack of a better term, though, what are some ways, I guess I should say, what are some ways where someone can tell whether they're in survival mode or just living life out in full self-expression?
that's a good one. I think survival mode, first of all, you lack the inability to rest. Because when you have a calm, balanced nervous system, rest is very, very important. It's part of your practice. Being in survival mode, you feel like you don't have that luxury. Rest is a luxury. That's one. Two, survival mode also means that you're always on the go. Even if you're not moving, your spirit is on the go because you feel like you have to attain certain things. You have to accomplish certain things. You can't stop until you accomplish said thing. And if I'm being honest, survival mode also means that in some cases or in most cases, a lot of people would be willing to do things in shady ways to get what they want. So they could be opportunistic. They could be aware of those who have what they seek and seek to infiltrate and then latch onto said people. Being in survival mode doesn't, for me, it doesn't ever, have benefits, if I'm being honest, because I can assure you that if you're balanced, if you're comfortable, yes, if we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need your basic needs met to be able to see that you don't need to you can do things from a calmer place. You can do things from a balanced place. Why? Because then you're more receptive to ideas. You're more receptive to things that are in alignment with who you are. When you're in survival mode, you don't have the time to really sit down and think and be strategic. It's like there's a certain level of desperation. So that's what I see as survival mode. It's not in all cases, but it's in what I've seen. Because when I was in survival mode, which was a while ago, I didn't act the way I act now. You know what I'm saying? Some people are prone to, rage, and they're prone to acting out. They don't have that self-regulation. There's no emotional regulation. Thank you. But who I am now, as somebody that is self-regulated, that is comfortable with herself, starkly different from who I was in survival mode. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I'm glad, like, you are just doing perfect segue to like the questions that I'm already thinking in my brain. I'm wondering, how does your alter ego Viv allow you or help you say the things that your normal controlled self maybe wouldn't?
I think of, honestly, I'm not going to lie, like being Viv saved my life because I think of life and I think of living from an artistic point of view. I think I'm in a film. And I say that because when I think of myself as that, I think of myself as the main character. I think of myself, I watch myself from the point of a viewer. What would I want to do in this particular situation? Who I am without restraints for being like Fida. Because I could say that I'm the calmer version of Viv. But if I'm Viv, it's like, look, this is on my mind. I'm going to tell you right here and now, and nothing's going to happen. Viv is more audacious. It's that audacity that maybe you find it beating out of you when you're growing up. But with Viv, it's kind of like I called it back. Call back that audacity. Call back that boldness. Call back that woman that dares to do things that people haven't done before. Call back that who are you as a woman in your full power? Who are you? What can you do? Because for me, I'm not going to lie, my more masculine side comes out when I'm with Viv because I really take up space. I want to use my voice. I want to be heard. And I always have something sensible to say. When I dampen myself or suppress myself or dim, oh my goodness, the difference is so stark. So Viv has allowed me to be audacious. That's the word, audacious. Like the things that I didn't feel like I could do, when I finally allowed myself to actually have that space to cultivate Viv as an alter ego, who I am now, the life I'm living now, is as a result of tapping into that audacity and moving forward with it.
Just that was so good. Like, I just gotta take a moment for that. So like, just that word, having the audacity, because people have
Yeah.
the audacity to do a lot of stuff they shouldn't be doing. So we
Thank
should
you.
be speaking up, and we need to learn to have the audacity to do so. So thank you
Yes,
for
exactly.
bringing
Thank
that
you.
to our
And just to
attention.
add,
Yeah.
the same way you said people have the audacity to do things that are most times bad, I saw that and I was like that if you guys have the audacity to do that, I have the audacity to do my own thing, and let me be called the villain, because it seems like you all are audacious in the way that is harmful, and when I'm audacious in a way that is self-preserving and is assertive, it's harmful to you. So that's also bringing it back to shadow work, the things that people villainize because it's benefiting you and protecting you, and it's asserting your spirit. People don't like that. People will villainize that. But I step into that and I own it because I know myself. I'm happy with myself. I don't need to hold on to people that don't like the full version of me because I'm full on my own. Y'all are just adding yourself to my life. You all know that if you're here, you'll be benefiting. So if you're not going to stay here because the girl is too big for you, that's fine. I'm good. I can stand on my own.
That was so cute because the girl is too big for you.
Thank you.
I love it because no,
Yeah.
I would rather be the villain in my own story. You do not have to like me. I all
Thank
I
you.
can do is show up authentically as myself. You take it or leave it.
Exactly.
And I was just saying to, and I think I do believe that's a cultural thing. I was just saying to one of my best friends, like, especially now, I live on the East Coast now, and it's a cultural difference. And people don't really get what I mean by that because they're like, well, we're all black. That's not the culture I'm talking about. I'm talking about geographically, like the way that I was raised. Like, I don't care if you don't like me. There are a lot of people that care what people think about them. And I was not raised to be one of those people. You don't like me,
I
that's
like
okay.
that.
Next. I'm not having that conversation with you. I'm not asking you why you don't like me. I'm not trying to get you to like me, because I was made how I was made. And God is the reason that I am who I am and who I'm growing to be. So I could sit on that soapbox all day, but I'm going to keep it moving because I did want to ask another question. You spoke about this a little bit when you said we were conditioned in certain ways. So why do you think it's so hard for us to be ourselves? And like, how do we start becoming more comfortable with who we are?
I think a lot of us find it hard to be ourselves because growing up, that's where that conditioning started. It seemed like people would reject us. I mean, we don't have people around us for being who we were. So you sort of create a mask or a persona to be likable. But you find that regardless of you creating that mask, people still don't like you. The same people that are trying to conform for, they still, it's just a spirit thing. You can put on your mask, but like instinctively they feel it. They're like, I don't like this person. So eventually people that are self-aware would realize that I've been conforming, I've been a character for you to like me, to have you around, since it's clear that I don't like who I truly am, and you're still not satisfied. And that's when they make that change, so a lot of the reasons why people hold on to, or people try find it hard to be themselves, is because they don't want to face rejection. They have abandonment wounds. A lot of times they don't feel like they can stand on their own. They need community, etc., etc. But I always say, like I said, it starts with you. If you can commune with you, trust me, the people will come, just because you're being authentic. And what was your second question?
I don't even remember because I'm so taken aback by what you said. I think I said, how do you become more comfortable with yourself? But I must
Okay.
take a breather here because that was so good. But I love how you said it's a spirit. Like, people can feel your spirit, especially people who have the gift of discernment. Like, it doesn't help for me that I'm a behavioral scientist. So before you even talk, I've observed your behaviors and I know whether or not you're someone that I will allow in my space. But you also mentioned, a lot of people who are putting on this mask and essentially trying to get people to like them. They are the ones who need community, who can't stand on their own. And let's be clear, we all need community, but we also get to choose our community. I am not forcing people to be a part of my community. And I really feel like you was in my living room this week because I was just talking about all of this. But you get to choose. Like, I don't have the desire to be in community as much as someone else because I know exactly who I am, and more importantly, I know who he
Exactly.
created me to be. So I can stand alone and I can sit up in my living room and just have a funky good time with just me, myself, and him, right? But those are such great points. And I love, again, how you talked about wearing this mask and people can see clear through it. The other question was, how can we become more comfortable in our own skin and being ourselves? For people who don't have an alter ego or don't know how to create one or don't kind of know how to step outside of themselves, how can we become more comfortable?
Wonderful question, because it's in two parts for me. For those that are religious, I would say form a relationship with God and start there as your source. Because when you have that unwavering strength and belief in God, and you know that God is the definer of who you are as a person, you look at people, you're like, oh, this is man. I'm working with a big guy up here, whether God is male, female, whatever. But I'm working with a higher force here. And that's who defines me. That's who I seek acceptance from. Because I don't see why I should be seeking acceptance from man that is fickle when God is there for me, not judging me, forgiving me, loving me, wanting me in my expanded self, wanting me as my best self, my most enlightened self. So that's one part. The second part is, if you're not religious and you're more spiritual, get to know yourself. Because I'm speaking to people that are religious, I'd say start with God and then move to yourself. But if you're spiritual, start with yourself, because the God is within you. God is within all of us. When you start to build a relationship with yourself, you start to tap into your divinity. You start to see the beauty of who you are as a person, as a soul, and what you're here for. Because this world is not just about whether people like us. It's about our purpose, what we're here for. It's about getting to know who we are to the deepest parts. But a lot of times people don't try to forge that deep relationship with themselves. That's why they're not comfortable. That's why they're not happy. That's why they seek validation outside. There's a way you forge a relationship with yourself and you forge a relationship with God, that there's nothing outside of me that can ever make me feel like, oh, I need to shrink. Oh, I need to be this person. No, I'm validated internally. I don't need validation outside. If it comes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But the source is within me. The source is God. So that's my root. That's where I start from. And think of a tree. When you have that root that's tapped into something divine, something higher than man, you wouldn't fall when the storm comes. Everyone else would fall because they don't have strong roots. But you would stand and you would grow and your roots will expand. And that's how you find community. Who I am now as a person, trust me, after working on myself for years by myself, on learning things that made me limit myself, building my self-esteem because I know who I am and I know that, wow, I'm actually that girl. By knowing that, by knowing who I am, by sitting strongly in who I am, wow, I've tapped into my gifts of speaking, being, my knowledge. Where I am now, people gravitate to me. People just come. People just come. And thankfully, there's discernment as well. Because sometimes people are afraid to know themselves and then they're afraid to set those boundaries. They're afraid to trust their instincts. The strongest bond you can form it is with yourself, because then you are privy to intuition, discernment, knowing how to move, who to commune with, who to let go of, being able to detect subtle shifts in people, or being able to detect people's spirits and being like, oh, there's something about this person. They may not have shown it, but I'm going to just, that's how you can start being more comfortable with yourself. And for me, I'm not going to lie, starting my podcast, it was because I knew that I had a gift of speaking, because I felt suppressed when growing up in terms of speaking. People were always just so angry when I said my mind. And I'm like, why do people have such strong reactions to my voice? But by not exercising my voice, by not using it, by keeping everything inside, by downplaying my intuition, which is very strong, by the way, I really, really hindered myself from having a higher quality of life. But by creating my podcast, Perspective with Viv, and saying this is the space where I'm going to grow the aspects of me that people try to reject, honestly, I now speak and I know that this is a gift. I speak and I know that people are moved and they're hearing things, they're listening, they're hearing, that they're resonating with things and it's transforming them or inspiring them. On top of that, my intuition, it's the strongest it's ever been, to the point where it's like, the little whispers that you get that I miss sometimes. It could be the smallest thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I had to train even more for this to be so accurate. So those are things that I would say for people to, or advice for people to take as first steps, getting to know, being comfortable with themselves. Take yourself out on dates. Get to know yourself as a friend. Come on, you're with yourself every day. Like, I don't understand that. The relationship that you have with yourself sets precedence for every relationship you have with your life, in your life. So if you can't look to yourself as source and make sure everything is okay, everything is stable, everything is balanced, nothing is going to be balanced outside. So if you ever have an issue with people or with relationships, you have to turn it back to yourself. So that's my answer.
I love that answer as well. But I want to sum that up to y'all. What she said essentially was stop seeking validation from man that they have no weight or hold on whether or not you get into heaven. Let's be clear on that, right? Stop seeking validation from man and seek validation from God. Like you said, start there and then do the inner work, and your life literally will transform. And I say that as someone
Exactly.
whose love language was words of affirmation. I needed to hear it from somebody else. I needed to be validated in that by someone telling me certain things. But that no longer exists for me. I do still like to hear the words. Hold on. but I no longer need it because again, I know exactly who God called me to be and how he sees me. I'm looking at myself through his lens, so I don't need anybody else to tell me how they
Thank
view
you.
me. For this season, we are implementing something called the rundown. So if you're familiar with this or that, I'll just do some spitfire questions at you. So there'll be two questions. It's literally this or that. But so you have to choose this or that. You cannot choose both.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll try.
yeah. Setting boundaries or breaking cycles.
Oh, setting boundaries.
Period. I live by
Yeah,
boundaries.
Honestly, yeah.
Okay. Resting unapologetically or expressing unapologetically?
Resting
Yes.
unapologetically.
I knew you would go there.
Yeah.
Okay. Healing in solitude or healing in community?
Healing in solitude, actually.
Oh, same. Are we the same person? Because
Mm,
same. Because to your point, it has to start with you first. Like I can't be in
yeah,
community and I'm still all messed up
exactly.
inside. And a lot of people don't understand that they try to force you into community. It's like, hold on, I'm doing something here. Hold on, just one real quick.
Exactly.
um, Inner child work or ancestral healing?
Ooh, ooh.
I know.
Ancestral healing. Ancestral healing. Oh my God. The
like you
best.
like you said, going back, just kind of going back
Hmm.
to
Because
what
by
makes you you.
Yeah, because by healing your ancestral line and everything, you are healing your inner child. So it's both ways.
Yep, I agree. Your polished self or your unfiltered truth?
My unfiltered truth. Oof.
You're right.
Yes.
Now let's clarify for the people. Sometimes you do have to be polished, but
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
rather be unfiltered. You could still be. Let's also clarify that you could still be unfiltered and polished. You could do both
Yes, you
and
can.
okay.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Last one. Podcasting solo or soul deep guest interviews?
So deep guest interviews. Ooh, and that's a big one for me because I've always been a solo person, but so deep guest interviews for sure.
Yes. Well, thank you for playing that little game with me. I like to just see how
My
people think.
pleasure.
I think that segment is so fun because it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's kind of both, but I got to choose one. So let me just choose
Yeah,
this one.
that was
Um,
fun.
Yay. Glad. Thank you for indulging me. I just want to kind of do some takeaways of what we talked about today. So, what would you wrap this up as? Like, what would you want if they heard nothing else today? What would you want someone is in particularly a black woman and or an ally
Okay. Okay.
to take away from this conversation?
Learn to be comfortable with yourself by doing the inner work. Get to know yourself, befriend yourself. Let yourself be your person first. A lot of times we're seeking people outside and all of that. People are so unpredictable. Let your person be you, strengthen the roots that you have within, connect to the divine, seek that definition of self from a higher source, not from man. So, and then continue to pour into yourself, nourish yourself, and just allow yourself to rest. Rest is good, especially as Black women. We're always doing so much. So, rest and release by expressing. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for just showing up in your wholeness today, for just reminding us that there's not just power in being seen, but freedom, right? Freedom in being seen and power in the truth. So I definitely want to thank you for just sharing and talking us through that because, like I said, this one spoke to me. Like, I legitimately have been talking about this all week. So it's helpful to me. So
Oh,
I know it'll be helpful to others. But before we get out of here, definitely let us know where can they find you. Y'all, first of all, make sure you like and subscribe. Are you on Spotify? Tell us all the things.
yes. Okay. So you can find me on all podcast platforms. Perspective with Viv podcast. So nice. Perspective with Viv on YouTube, Perspective with Viv on Instagram, TikTok, all of that. Just search. And even LinkedIn. Yeah. I think that's it. Definitely. That's it. Yeah. I just want to say something. Oh my gosh, I wish this interview went even longer because I just love having conversations with you. Like, we have really deep, insightful conversations with topics. Like, my heart is just like, oh, like, such a fun interview. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I definitely enjoyed tapping into the wisdom of being a Black woman because there's so much that we go through, there's so much that we carry, there's so much that we're defined by. When people see us, they see us as nurturers of others or women that carry trauma, women that should be quiet, let's not be the angry Black woman. I'm so glad that I've not heard that stereotype in a long time, but I'm glad that we're having conversations that are so meaningful. And that's why it's such a pleasure to be on the podcast. Like, all the topics that you're dropping, or how you're empowering women, and just who you are as a person is inspiring. So definitely thank you for having me here. Like, so fun, so nice. Hope to do it again.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. Our 30 minutes on each other's podcast was just not enough. So that just means we need to keep working together. We need to figure out ways to just not only keep in touch, but keep helping other Black women, period. Because that is the bottom line among the other things we do in life, right? That is one of the bottom lines. So I appreciate you for, like I said, showing up authentically, dropping wisdom on us, because it truly, truly just shows your passion in all of this too, everything you said. So thank you again. If anyone knows someone who could benefit from this conversation, if it spoke to you even, share it with other people, okay? Make sure you go like and subscribe Perspectives with Viv on all platforms. And then also make sure you go buy the Black Girls Can Talk book, okay? So blackgirlscantalk.com. Black Girls with an S _ can talk on all platforms. And let's keep this conversation going, y'all. So until next time, I'm Dr. McCree, and we have Viv, and that is all. See you all next time. That's a wrap on today's episode of Black Girls Can Talk. I hope you felt heard, empowered, and inspired by today's conversation. If you love what you heard, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your girl. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at blackgirls with an S _ can talk to stay updated on future episodes and join the conversation online. Got something you want us to talk about or want to be a guest on our show? Hit us up on social media or visit our website at blackgirlscantalk.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, Black girls can talk, and we've got a lot to say. Until next time, stay powerful.